There's a word that quietly shapes the future of millions of people with peripheral neuropathy. And that word is idiopathic. It is usually delivered calmly and often politely. You hear the phrase, "We don't know why this is happening." But that word and that phrase carries far more weight than it appears to. Idiopathic is not a diagnosis. It is a boundary. It marks the point where a model stops explaining reality. And when people misunderstand that, they accept limits that may not actually exist. In medicine, language is powerful. Labels determine direction. They decide what gets explored. They decide what gets ignored. And most importantly, they decide when exploration stops. When neuropathy is labeled idiopathic, most people hear finality. No cause, no roadmap, no leverage. But that is not what the term truly means. Idiopathic simply means a single dominant cause was not identified inside the framework being used. That distinction matters a lot. Biology does not operate on single causes. It operates on systems. Nerves do not suddenly fail. They adapt. They compensate. They tolerate stress until the environment they live in no longer supports repair. Neuropathy is almost never the result of one failure. It is the result of accumulated pressure across multiple systems. Metabolic instability, vascular compromise, inflammatory load, mechanical stress, and signal inefficiency. Now, each one alone may appear mild, often too mild to set off any trigger or red flags. But together, they change the operating conditions of the nervous system. And nerves are exquisitely sensitive to operating conditions. Most clinical models are not designed to track accumulation. They are designed to identify dominant drivers, clear pathology, clear timelines, and clear causality. Things like diabetes, chemotherapy, autoimmune disease, trauma. When one of those is present, the story feels complete. When none of them fully explain what is happening, the model struggles. So the language begins to shift, and the term idiopathic is what you may hear. Not because nothing is happening, but because nothing fits cleanly. This is where people get stuck. Because idiopathic sounds like a mystery, and a mystery sounds like fate. But from a systems perspective, idiopathic usually means multi-factor. It means no single factor was loud enough to dominate the chart. Instead, the nervous system was exposed to years of subtle strain. Blood flow that was slightly compromised, glucose handling that was slightly inefficient, inflammation that never fully resolved, mechanical stress that never stopped. None dramatic, but all persistent. Over time, the nervous system adapts downwards. The repair slows, the signal quality degrades, and symptoms begin to appear. Burning, tingling, numbness, instability. And because no single test explains the picture, the label becomes the endpoint, not the beginning. Idiopathic persists not because clinicians are careless. It persists because systems reward certainty. Clear diagnoses create clear pathways. Clear pathways create efficiency, and efficiency keeps large systems functioning. Idiopathic introduces uncertainty into systems built on categorization. So instead of expanding the investigation, care often shifts towards containment, manage symptoms, reduce discomfort, and slow progression. That is not incompetence, it is structural limitation. But limitation often gets mistaken for truth. Here is the critical point most people are never told. Idiopathic neuropathy rarely means the nerve cannot recover. It usually means the environment has not been fully addressed. An environment governs nerve behavior. Change the environment, you change the ceiling. Not instantly, not aggressively, and not even universally, but far more often than the labels suggest. This is why you can see two people with the same idiopathic diagnosis can have completely different outcomes. One is managed, the other is evaluated system by system. One receives tools aimed at perception, the other receives care aimed at support. Blood flow, metabolic stability, inflammatory burden, mechanical load, signal efficiency. One remains stuck, the other stabilizes, then improves. Not because the diagnosis changed, because the operating model changed. Idiopathic is not a dead end, it is a signal. A signal that the current framework does not yet explain the whole picture. And incomplete frameworks create premature limits. This is also why idiopathic neuropathy often appears later in life. Not because age causes neuropathy, but because time allows accumulation. Decades of small compromises, they add up. Sedentary behavior, poor sleep, blood sugar volatility, chronic stress, repetitive mechanical strain. Each one can be minor, but together they're decisive. The nervous system adapts as long as it can. Then, eventually, symptoms begin to emerge. And when they do, they feel sudden. But the process was not sudden. It was delayed recognition. Delayed recognition does not fit well inside models built around acute causality. So, idiopathic becomes the safest conclusion, not because nothing can be done, but because deeper inquiry does not fit in the system. This is where messaging becomes dangerous, because words shape belief. When people believe nothing else can be done, exploration stops, engagement drops, and hope erodes quietly. That belief often does more damage than the condition itself. Now, I want to be very clear. Not every case can be reversed. Not every nerve will fully recover. But many people are told they are out of options far earlier than biology would agree. Because biology does not operate on appointment schedules. It does not operate on insurance pathways. It operates on inputs. Change the inputs, change the environment, change the range of possible outcomes. That is the difference between symptom management and system care. Symptom care asks, how do we quiet the signal? System care asks, what is preventing repair? Those are fundamentally different questions, and they lead to fundamentally different outcomes. Idiopathic neuropathy is where that distinction matters most, because when the label is misunderstood, better questions stop being asked. When better questions stop, progress stalls or fails. Idiopathic is not a verdict, it is a challenge. A challenge to expand the model, a challenge to integrate systems, a challenge to stop chasing single causes and start addressing load. Silence is rare. Stability is achievable. And idiopathic neuropathy is often where real care actually begins.